The city had always been loud, but to her it was a kind of silence, an endless hum of strangers moving in and out of their own lives, never stopping, never listening. Amelia Hart had lived within that noise all her 23 years, studying by day, working by night, and trying, against all odds, to find a place for herself in a world that felt too vast to care whether she belonged. She was ordinary, she told herself. Nothing remarkable, just another young woman navigating the sharp edges of adulthood. But it was on a rain-swept evening in October that her ordinary life fractured into something else entirely. Something darker, intoxicating, and irreversible. The gallery was nearly empty when she entered, her shoes clicking faintly against marble floors. She had come only because a friend insisted. Because the exhibit promised free entry and free wine, and Amelia could hardly afford either. But she lingered, pulled deeper into the shadows of canvases that glared with strange intensity. Paintings of storms, of shattered glass, figures half-cloaked in night. There was no peace in this art, only chaos restrained by the edges of frames. And standing before one particularly haunting piece, woman's face dissolving into smoke, was a man unlike any she had ever seen. He was tall, composed, dressed in a suit that seemed cut from midnight itself. His hair was dark, his jawline sharp, but it was his eyes that caught her. Eyes like obsidian polished to a dangerous gleam. They did not merely glance, they seized, and when they landed on her, she felt as though every defense she had ever built was stripped away in an instant. "You see it too," he said, his voice low, smooth, carrying an accent she could not place. Amelia startled. "See what?" The face behind the smoke. He tilted his head toward the canvas. "Most people only see decay. You see the soul that refuses to be erased." She wanted to argue, to deny that he had read her thoughts so easily, but instead she asked, "And if I do, then you're not like the others." His lips curved in not quite a smile, more a possession of knowledge. "That painting was mine. You painted this." Pause. "Commissioned, collected, owned. Art is not only creation, it is dominion." And I hissed. Gaze swept over her, unashamed. "I know how to claim what others overlook. Should have been arrogant, absurd." Yet Amelia felt a shiver coil through her spine, not of fear, but of something stranger in awareness, a pull she could not name. She excused herself quickly, retreating toward the wine table. But when she turned, he was already there. As though the shadows had carried him, "Amelia Hart," he said without being told. Her breath caught. "How I make it my craft to know what matters." His hand extended. Adrienne Veron. The name was a whisper in the city, one she had overheard in hushed tones in law offices, in finance columns, in stories of unreachable wealth. A man who bought companies like trinkets, who collected fortunes the way others collected memories. A ghost who appeared in headlines, but never in person. And yet here he was, inches from her, regarding her not as another face in the gallery, but as though she were the only living figure in the room. That night marked the beginning. He pursued her not with roses, not with empty promises, but with precision. A message arrived the next morning, her tuition debt cleared. Another the next Wicca leather-bound journal delivered to her door, its pages blank. But inside the cover inscribed, "For the words you have not yet dared to write." He seemed to know her struggles before she spoke them, her dreams before she admitted them, her fears before she confessed them. When she protested, he dismissed it with a glance. "I don't offer charity, Amelia. I invest. And I only invest in what I intend to keep." The words should have frightened her, but instead she told herself she could walk away at any time, that she owed him nothing. Yet when he invited her into his world, a private tower overlooking the city, cars that purred like predators, dinners in hidden rooms lit only by candle and flame she followed, and when he touched her hand, finally, in that dim light, she felt the weight of years collapse into that single moment, as though every choice had led her here, to him. But Adrienne Veron was no simple man. His world was one of contracts signed in blood and ink, of masked galas where secrets were currency, of whispers traded in corridors where power bent the knee only to desire. He showed her a life stitched with luxury and shadow alike, and he warned her always with that quiet, dangerous calm that once she stepped fully into his world, there would be no return. "You think I'm dangerous?" he murmured one night, his hand tracing the line of her jaw. "I know you are," she breathed, and yet his lips brushed against her ear. "You stay," because she wanted him. Because beneath the sharpness, beneath the darkness, she had seen flickers of something else, a wound hidden too deep for the world to glimpse. He let it surface only in fragments, a photograph burned, a name never spoken, a silence that fell heavier than any threat. It was not wealth that defined Adrian, but the shadows of his past, shadows that wrapped around him like chains. And Amelia, caught between fear and fascination, found herself reaching for those shadows, desperate to understand, even if it meant losing herself within them. The turning point came in winter, when snow lay heavy upon the city and the cathedral bells tolled like mournful warnings. Adrian took her to an estate beyond the river, a mansion cloaked in ivy and iron gates. Inside, the hall stretched endlessly, lined with portraits of stern ancestors, their painted eyes judging from centuries past. It was there he revealed the truth of his legacy. A lineage steeped in power, yes, but also in ruin. Generations of control, betrayal, and blood that bound him to a darkness he could neither escape nor deny. "This is what I am," he confessed, standing before a cracked mirror. "A man carved by those who came before me, cursed by their sins. You see the wealth, the power, the precision, but what you do not see is the cost. I can give you everything, Amelia, but not freedom. To stand with me is to be bound in shadow." And though the words were warning, they were also plea. For the first time, Adrian was not the untouchable master of his world, but a man stripped bare. A man who feared not losing fortunes, but losing her. Amelia should have walked away. Any rational soul would have fled, chosen safety over seduction. But she did not, because she understood him in a way no one else did, beneath the armor. Beneath the control, he was a storm desperate for release. And she, though ordinary, was the only one who had ever dared to step into its eye. And so she stayed. What followed was not a love story, not as the world would call it. It was fire and ice, silence and thunder, the collision of two souls bound not by perfection but by need. He tested her, pushed her, demanded trust in places where trust felt impossible. She defied him, challenged him, refused to be merely another possession. Their nights burned with passion so fierce it bordered on destruction, their days tangled with secrets she struggled to unravel. Every truth she discovered drew her deeper. Every danger she uncovered pulled her tighter into his grasp. There were others who warned her, friends who vanished, rivals who whispered that Adrian Veron was not merely ruthless, but cursed, that every woman who entered his life disappeared, their names scrubbed from memory. Yet Amelia endured, not because she was blind, but because she had seen beyond the shadow to the broken man within. The question was not whether she loved him. The question was whether love could survive in a world built on control, in a house built on silence, in a heart built from scars. The night of revelation arrived quietly. No storm, no catastrophe, only a single letter slipped beneath her door, unsigned, but carrying the weight of truth. It spoke of debts unpaid, of betrayals buried, of a death that tied Adrian not only to power, but to guilt. And when she confronted him, he did not deny it. "Yes," he said, his eyes harder than obsidian now. "I destroyed them, because they would have destroyed me first. This is the man you chose, Amelia. Not saint, not savior, only shadow." Her hands trembled, her heart ached, but she did not run. She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with fire of her own. "Then let me burn with you. But don't lie. Don't hide. If I am yours, Adrian, I am yours in truth." A long moment, silence reigned. Then his control, his endless, suffocating control cracked, and he drew her to him with a hunger that was not merely desire but surrender. And in that surrender, they both knew their story was no fairy tale, no simple romance. It was a shadowed covenant, forged in passion and peril alike, destined to consume them both, Thus begins the first descent into the shadows of desire. Where love is not light but fire, where truth is not purity but pain, and where two souls, bound by darkness, dare to defy a world that would sooner see them destroyed than together, to be continued.